Dark Obsidian followers, Raven Ritual 666, back with another Borderlands build guide. Let's get into it. We're looking at Hiroshi Mo's and some of the damage we can do using only radiation and splash damage. It is insane. Here we go, watch this. So you can see we've gone down here to Traunt, throw grenades, get that plus 25% weapon damage, sidestep, and if I actually hit with a weapon, one shot dead. One shot dead. Now that's not even using shields like our old god, that's with the one-shotter shield, which is what we use preferably for bosses. Let's go have a look at another Grave Ward kill, just to showcase some of the damage this build does. Alright, so we'll go over to the Floating Tomb. We're playing on the Xbox Series X, absolutely awesome buy. 15 times faster just on the home loading screen getting into the game. Let's have a look. What I'm going to spend today doing is not spending too much time talking around the skills, but showcasing more of the weapons. You can see here that I have now farmed and got some of the best gear for Mo's with this build. We mainly use the Beacon, Plasma Coil, Sandhawk, Backburner, and the Old God Shield, but for bossing it's great to switch to the one-shotter shield. For takedown, sometimes I do use the Transformer just for a little bit of extra resistance to shock damage. However, one-shotter is best choice for a boss, and Elemental Projectile Deathless. Let's have a look here. We'll hop into Iron Bear, we'll fire 2 nukes just to start the cooldown, and I'll talk a bit around why we want that cooldown. Then we're just firing a few backburners, 2 shots there, 2 shots. Look at that damage, ridiculous. Alright, so we'll go over to the Maliwan takedown. But then I'm going to start talking around the skills that we're using for this build to do this kind of damage, as well as showcase the different gear in this setup, just how you can get through and smash the Kraken in no time. This gear and this build works for the Guardian takedown. I soloed it yesterday, first run, no worries at all. But let's have a look here. So, getting into it, here are some of the skills. So I'll start with Demolition Woman, so the blue tree. So the first thing you'll notice, we're using 2 Vanquisher rocket pods on both arms with the Augment Hammerdown protocol. Now that is radiation damage and splash damage, which will get buffed through some of the gear that we're using as well. So we're going 5 points in the Fire in the Skag Den. There's not a Mo's build that doesn't use Fire in the Skag Den, because it does a ridiculous amount of damage with times 31 damage for Mayhem 10. We're going 3 points into Means of Destruction, 5 points into Tall Cross Promotion, 5 points in the Stainless Steel Bear, 3 points in the Pull the Holy Pin. It's really helping us to get a lot of ammo regen. We are using Auto Bear a lot, just to really make sure we're getting some damage in our Iron Bear's cooldown. I'll talk through that because we are using a few points in the new purple skill tree, which is super exciting. 2 points in a Vampire, that's where our healing comes from just spamming grenades. To the last, you don't need to use 1 point into the last. You could put that back in the Vampire if you feel like you need a bit more survivability. However, I like being able to throw grenades if I do go down, especially if enemies run behind cover. It's just a cool little perk. Short Fuse is the most important capstone and the best capstone. It actually does radiation damage, so it is awesome to use with this setup when we're trying to buff radiation damage. Next, I'll jump across into our red skill tree. So we're going 5 points into Armoured Infantry. It's really good to get a bit of resistance to damage. 1 point into Vladof Ingenuity. If you did want, you could try and put an extra few points in there if you're not using a Transformer Shield. I'll go 3 points in the Thin Red Line. 5 points in Drowning in Brass. You get so much damage from Drowning in Brass, especially when you're mobbing. 1 point into Experimental Munitions, and this is some of the change that we've done in this build from Hiroshi Mo's 3.0. 3 into Desperate Measures. We've now got an extra 5 skill points, so I've been wanting to get to Desperate Measures for a long time. That's why I've been doing a Bloodletter build, but we're getting up to 83% gun damage all the time. What you'll notice from my last build, we're not using Click now, as we can get further down to Desperate Measures and get more damage that way. Before we were using skills from our class mod into Desperate Measures, as well as Click. Into Bottomless Mags, we're going 5 in Cloud of Lead, 3 points into Stoke the Embers, 1 point in redistribution. It's really helping us to get our ammo regen, especially with our skills in Demolition Woman skill tree. Scrappy's great. I love this skill. It's really hard to pass up, especially with weapon swap speed when we want to be switching guns quite regularly. Moving, getting that extra weapon damage bonus is absolutely fantastic. 30% is nice to have. We're not using Scorching RPMs. Now, I would love to be using Scorching RPMs with a few more points. That's what I did do previously. But now, with Big Surplus, this skill is ridiculous. It's like double fire in the Skag then. So the 3 points, rather than going into Scorching RPMs, is going across into Big Surplus. If you wanted to use Iron Bear more, spend more time in the suit, you could either go into really big guns instead of Big Surplus, or down into Scorching RPMs. However, we're just doing so much damage outside of Iron Bear, and keeping it up with Auto Bear, it really means that we're getting more DPS over time. 1 point in a Russian offensive, you don't actually have to put that in there. You could chuck that into Scorching RPMs instead. However, it's crucial to get to Specialist Bear. We're getting an extra 60% damage with our Vanquisher rocket pods with those 2 nukes. So really important skill to pick up. Of course, then I did mention our 3 points in a Big Surplus, which is just fantastic. So let's look at some of the gear. So the purpose of this build initially is all be using radiation weapons. Radiation elemental damage. We're going to be constantly irradiating enemies. With our elemental projected Deathless, you will irradiate yourself at times, which will put out an extra 100 and something % damage, which is really nice to have. You'll see here that we play purely on true takedown every single time. It's not a worry in the world. But the whole purpose is 2 types of anointments that you really want to be using. One is splash damage.
Make your way there and be ready.
The 160 splash damage outside of Iron Bear, or the 200% splash damage on ASE is just amazing to have. The next one is URAD, so that while under 50% health, gain 50%, 150% extra damage. Now, the reason we do want to use that is with our Deathless build, is that we're constantly under 50% health, which is just fantastic to have. So you'll see here the Plasma Coil absolutely shreds. Let's have a look at some of the gear for this setup, and then we'll look at a bit more gameplay. So the first weapon I choose to use is the Terminal Beacon. Any beacon's good as long as it's radiation damage. I have the anointment after exiting Iron Bear, gain 160% increased splash damage for 18 seconds. Awesome to have. The URAD version is wonderful as well. Plasma Coil, new gun with the latest downloadable content. It just shreds. I have next 2 mags, radiation damage, which is great to have. However, I would prefer to have the under 50% health to 150% bonus radiation damage. You can see I have that with my Sandhawk, which is amazing. It's best to get a Sandhawk that fires single shots. It's more accurate. It's really great to pick off little enemies in the sky, especially through the Guardian takedown, or to get yourself up if you do go down. I have a Backburner with 200% splash damage increased by 200%. I actually have radiation backburners with URAD version as well. Both are great to have. It just depends. If you're spamming in and out of Iron Bear more, use the splash damage, which will do the most DPS overall. Otherwise, if you just want to be on foot and not using Iron Bear as much, you can just use the URAD version. Quantumizers also work quite well for rocket launchers. The Plague Bearer is fantastic. I have the Yellow Cake, actually. Level 57 Yellow Cake is one of my favourite weapons to use in the Guardian takedown. It really does so much damage, and you can keep spamming it. The best thing about it being a COV weapon is, with your skills, it's constantly regenerating ammo, so it is just awesome for the Guardian takedown, where you won't run out of rockets like you might with the Backburner. The Major Kong is also awesome for one-shotting bosses. Let's have a look at some of the other pistols that work great. The Light Show, even though it doesn't do splash damage, it just shreds with the 5150 anointment. The Prompt Critical is an amazing gun. You get this blood explosion effect when you're radiating enemies and using the sticky version of it, which I'll show you guys in a little bit. Unkempt Harold, it's great that it's back from BL2. It does so much damage. I also have a beacon with a plus 125% incendiary damage. Proprietary license works okay. Bloodstarved Beast is a beast. It just shreds through single target enemies, which is awesome. Kiv's Worth works amazing. The Flipper Consec Hits is probably one of the best guns to still use with Moes. you can just keep holding down that trigger and just spamming grenades with no issue of ammo. I also have this Dark Flipper with the new anointment. While Iron Bear is active, Vanquisher rocket pod damage is increased by 100%. Now if you want to spend a lot of time in Iron Bear, I chuck this weapon on. You can just go in and out of Iron Bear, and while you're in Iron Bear, those rockets, those nukes, will do something like 50 million damage, which is just wipes red dots off the map. The Chaosin's great, especially if you do want a bit of health, especially when we are using skills like, I think it's what, Russian Offensive. Yeah, when you've got Russian Offensive, the secondary explosions of the Chaosin will actually give you health when you run, so you can shoot, run away, and actually get your full shield back. The Monarch's okay. Boomsicle is awesome to use. I would love to get a splash damage anointment, but it is a nightmare to try and farm this gun. Sawbar I do use for splash damage for mobs. I know it's incendiary, but I just love the Sawbar and the recent buff to it. Shredder Fire works amazing, no splash damage on that, but you'll keep proccing short fuse like crazy, which is awesome and just fun to use. Convergence works okay. The Trevinator is fantastic. 200 splash damage Trevinator absolutely kills enemies, it's awesome. Anarchy, as we know, once you stack up that Anarchy, stack the Anarchy, you can do so much damage. Insider works great. I haven't farmed the best anointment, but I'll be looking to get a ×10 version with splash damage. Critical Thug, I've got one ×2 with splash damage. It does a lot of damage. It is awesome with those crits. Protuberance is fantastic. I'll show you guys probably in a bit. I'll chuck this gun on. I will go back and put on the Old God. Old God is the best shield. That's what's really helping us get that extra radiation damage and elemental damage resistance. You need a Cloning Maddening Tracker just for your health regen. You want on Grenade Throwing Anointment so you can get that extra damage. For my artifact or relic, you can pretty much use any form of Deathless you want. You want Area of Effect damage. It's the most important to get that splash damage bonus. Radiation damage is probably the second most important prefix to really help buff some of that damage that we're doing, and mag sizes is just nice to have. Snowdrift Deathless, you need to have one just to move around quick in certain scenarios, especially when bossing or farming. Class mod, so I have multiple different versions. I've got splash damage heavy weapon, splash damage weapon crit. The best skills I find to have is 2 in a Phalanx Doctrine, 2 into Desperate Measures, and 1 in Thin Red Line. I do have one to the right here with weapon crit damage, with 3 in Desperate Measures and 2 in Phalanx Doctrine, which is fun to switch between. But overall, you can see I use all different class mods depending on the situation, so I'll chuck this one on for now. Alright, so let's look at some of the damage that we can actually do with this build. I think that is what I want to showcase, is all the different weapons and how they work so well together. So the first thing you want to do when playing this build is jump into Iron Bear. So you want to jump in once the cooldown is done, but while you're in cooldown, you'll see that extra damage that you're getting is just insane. So I like to be able to run and get some health back if I need to.
That's just what I do.
You see the splash damage there is just ridiculous. So spam grenades, you generally want to fall back away from enemies. You can self-kill yourself, sometimes with the splash weapons when enemies are up in your face. So weapons like the Flipper don't do self-damage. I generally want to fire a couple of rockets, fall back through Iron Bear, because it also works as a kind of a shield. Enemies will target it. If we have a look here, we can put on a back burner, and that will just clear enemies off the map. Keep away from your back burner, it will do a ridiculous amount of damage. So getting through to the Kraken, I'm there, fire a couple of rockets, jump back out, and you'll see how much damage the back burner will do here. If you do go down, then spam a grenade, you'll get up pretty quick. No major concerns. You will go down a couple times in this build, but all you really need to do is hold down fire, keep throwing grenades, and you'll have pretty much infinite survivability, as every time the grenades hit with Vampire, it will be reloading up the shield, so just get into that nice kind of motion there. So let's have a look at some of the other gear that we can use. So I did mention the prompt critical, which is fun. Bloodstarved Beast is also nice to use. So if we run at enemies here, we'll get some health back at the same time, see full shield back. But what I like about using the prompt criticals is if you put it on sticky mode, like right here. Reload that, and look at that kind of blood explosion effect that you get. Sandhawk does so much damage as well, so it's generally a good gun to equip if you do go down. But you can see there, the amount of damage is just ridiculous with this build. Go back an Iron Bear. Fire off those nukes, and that's why we call this build Hiroshima, from that damage that we do there. Alright, well thank you so much for watching this build video. Oh hey Hecate, sorry I was just testing the video before for sound. Thank you so much. Raven Ritual 666 Hiroshima, have some fun.